Oh, well, today, well, not today, but like earlier, we had a doctor's appointment. I think it was last Wednesday. Uh, Although today's what, Sunday? That was the first. Oh, I didn't change the calendar. Um, yeah, or like it's Saturday.
Saturday.
I believe it's Saturday. Anyway, so like, yeah, last Wednesday, we both had a doctor's appointment. It's funny, the doctor saw both of us at the exact same time, which I wasn't expecting. We used to
In the
do that
same
all the time in
room.
school.
In the same room of all things.
And speaking of school, you know what this kind of reminds me? While we were, waiting, in the waiting room and waiting in the exam room and that kind of stuff. We had both of our tablets because we got these little cheapo little Kindle Fires that are like, $35 on Black Friday. So, we have a thing to my Comixology account because I'm the one who owns all the comics on Comixology. But I recently bought Creature Tech, like I think a month or two ago, and I was like, I plan to read this. And the best time to read it is like when you're at the doctor's office. I always got comics downloaded to my tablet through Comixology, um, through the app, just
As
in
much
case
as
of
I hate
emergency.
comics, I hate comics, but well, man, it sure is great being able to read them conveniently over the internet.
Well, or again, right off a tablet because I can bring a tablet with me and have like 20 or 30 or 50 or 100 comics downloaded to it. They'll just bring up like I don't need the internet connection once as long as you have a Wi-Fi at home, you can go somewhere else, and as long as you got your tablet, you have the thing downloaded to the app. So and I have like 1,000 comics owned on that on my Comixology account, which is nice and convenient. Another thing is that like Marvel made a like about 500 like no issue number ones available for free several
Mostly
years
of their
ago.
trash comics.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that so I own 1,000 comics on Comixology, but I would say there's only like 20 on my account actually worth reading. And then, of course, there's the ones I bought with the potential to read and, kind of hope that they're good. And Creature Tech was one of them, which I remember we had the PDF. Somebody gave us the PDF for Creature Tech like 10 or 15 years ago. I think it was 10 years ago on Shitty Webcomics. Somebody's like, oh, here's Doug TenNapel's Creature Tech. He's the guy who invented Earthworm Jim. And I'm like, okay, I guess maybe I'll check it out. And I remember I opened it and I like skimmed the first few pages and it was just a bunch of concept art. And it's like, is this just one of his art books then? It's a concept art book, something like that.
That's exactly what I figured. It was an art book, and it's like, I'll look at this later.
Yeah,
And then, like
when I got
15
free
years
time,
later,
maybe I'll check it out. Turns out it's a story, and it's actually a good, decent story. It's totally decent. Again, that almost sounds like it's not complimentary enough. Um,
it's
Again,
the damning with faint praise
yeah,
of all time.
but the perfect timing for that is when you're at the doctor's office waiting, and it's like, let me read through a comic book. And this one was almost even like the perfect length for that because by the
Now, I
time,
read the first half.
yeah, I think I started a little earlier than you, but I was basically at the same page. I was at like the second page or something. But yeah, by the time that it was all over, I had read the entire comic and I was like, oh, that's cool. Now, one thing about this comic is that the first half is a lot of setup and establishing the character. Like the main character here is like sort of Ivy League, California, fucking well taught, scientist guy, Mister Scientist guy.
He comes from Middle America, and he moved away as soon as he could.
Yeah, and then like his dad still lives in Middle America and became a preacher instead of a scientist, and so he gets the assignment to go to the Creature Tech, the Institute of Studying Crazy Technology and stuff, and it's sort of like a like the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, where it's like they got all these crates of mysterious, possibly supernatural, alien, blah blah, all this kind of stuff, and they go through it and figure out what it is and what it does. And again, they don't show a lot. There could have been a lot of that of like there could have been a good 50 pages of them going through crate after crate and being like, oh, here's one crazy thing, here's another crazy thing. But it kind of cuts to the chase and gets to the overall plot, where one of them is the Shroud of Turin. And there's all these elements that I'm skipping through. Like the very beginning has this evil scientist that traded his hand with a demon cat and that kind of shit. And then
one of them was a Russian teleporter, and it's like the Russians shouldn't have this technology.
Yeah, exactly. So there's all these elements that come together for like a crazy supernatural kind of fun thing. The main character,
Yeah, kind of Men in Black actually. There's a little taste of Men in Black. But,
yeah, it's Men in Black, but with like a much more cartoony, fun attitude. The way that the comics apparently didn't have, but the movie was more going for. But this also has a lot more. This has a lot more playful elements and ties in a very complete theme of there's a lot of Christianity wearing on its sleeve too, but that also ties in with like a lot of the faith and the the characters sort of looking for that and sort of reconciling the weird science stuff with their own level of faith and their own elements of how it plays into their personalities and the other people that they know. And so this main character, he's coming back to this middle America place where he came up, and he's kind of resentful of everything.
Exactly, actually. They just call it Creature Tech, but it's got an official name, and I forget what it was.
Yeah, but it's
like CTI or something.
Yeah, there's some element of like the locals there don't exactly like it, and then he doesn't exactly like it because the locals are there. And then throughout there's a lot of goofy adventures going on where, like, he's wounded by like a weird alien sort of parasite symbiote thing that eventually has to attach itself to him so that it can live and that he can live. And so for a lot of that, he has sort of a weird like super suit powers. Again, kind of reminiscent of our Earthworm Jim, where he's got a suit that makes him super powered. And then, but without the worm and without the suit, neither of them are really anything. So it's got all these, it's got those elements. It's got the eventually what happens is they find the Shroud of Turin, and the demon guy, in the past, he was trying to summon a giant space eel, and he gets revived because the Shroud of Turin brings anything back from the dead. And it's kind of funny because it's got that element of the Christian, theology, mythology, magicology, or whatever, and then turns it into like a goofy fun thing in this. So you kind of wouldn't expect that from a Christian creator necessarily. Even this guy, the butcher, eventually puts it
in a way so that's not like a lot of other. It's not Bible Man. This isn't going to read like Bible Man.
Yeah, exactly, and that's such a massive strength. It's so necessary. But eventually, this butcher gets the Shroud of, like a scrap of the Shroud of Turin. I think it got ripped in half, but he gets like this half here. He hangs.
They're very careless. They're very careless with the Shroud of Turin. Though this ghost steals it, and he's just ripping shreds off of it, just pulling it all over the place.
Yeah, it's the burial cloth of Jesus Christ, and they're just tearing it to shreds. But and this guy hangs it next to his meat, and it brings all his meat back to life. And then fucking the meat runs out and gets slammed by a truck.
It's a meat abomination. It's got an arm made of sausage. It's really kind of horrifying.
Yes.
It's great.
It fucking and also the bad guy in this is like just a goof. Like he's just making all these dumb puns all the time when the thing gets hit. He went to meet his maker. It's just like so tongue-in-cheek. It's like the story is almost daring you to try taking it seriously, but you can't because look at this. Just look at this goofy stuff.
The art style perfectly matches that too. The art style almost kind of informs the rest of the tone.
Yeah, in fact, there was something about the art style where we were talking about even to each other is that like it's got complexity when it needs to, but it knows how to just be simple sometimes to just sell a point. Like here's like, this panel right here is just basically silhouettes and simple figures, but you get a tone. In fact, you get a really good atmosphere of like just like the last minute of a sunset where the sun is not visible anymore, but there's just that hint of sunlight where the lights are on and everything's kind of dark, but there's
Something
just enough light in the sky.
If you live in the city.
In the city. You can't see that in the city. But there's also what I really like is at some point like a giant grasshopper shows up.
This is clearly an inspiration for the mantis race in FTL.
Oh yeah, that's something you were mentioning in FTL. There's a alien race of mantises who you can recruit mantis people, and was it they had like a higher attack for warding off invaders?
Yeah, they do more physical damage.
Yeah, they do more physical damage when fighting invaders on your ship, which is very handy. You always want that. And
there's like a mantis ship. There's a specific mantis. I know the person who's probably listening to this is going to enjoy hearing all about the video game elements of FTL.
Mm-hmm.
Especially right now during this. But yeah, the mantis ship also had a specific loadout for teleporting crew members as like boarding parties.
And the thing is, in this though, it's just kind of a cute element of the story where a mantis sort of wanders into like some hillbilly's house, and so they befriend the mantis, and they're all pals. And there's a nice element later where the
friendly pals. That's actually one of my favorite parts of the comic. Actually, is that they're just sitting around on the couch, drinking buddies. And there's this part: the mantis gets injured in a fight with the bad guys.
Yeah, so they get to duct tape.
They repair it by duct taping his chest.
Well, they repair it with duct tape, but also the guy's dad is here, and he, Pastor, is there anything you could do? And he says, I'll do what I do. And it shows he gets his crucifix and prays as they have the duct tape on it. And it goes into this one, like this giant crazy, like a grasshopper heaven or something. And it's like a classical religious painting and stuff. And then,
yeah, we see the Last Supper for mantises.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's an element where the mantis comes back.
The mantis ghost comes back down from heaven.
Because mantis heaven, they came back and gave him a second chance, and he says the duct tape worked. Which again, it has all those elements, and the friends, their friend. The hillbillies are happy to see their mantis friend is back to life again. And then there's all these action elements, and like the sort of demon revived guy is like turning everyone's cats into demon cats. And so they're
he has the ability to instantly like essentially possess cats with demons.
Yeah, and so there's all this action and fighting and crazy elements, and it again, it sets up a tone so good. But a lot of this, the first half is a lot of setup of the environment and the setting, but the last half, and I won't spoil it, but the last half has some really great action. And in fact, here there's this 2-page spread where the guy revives the giant space eel. It's I guess we'll have to give some spoiler warning. I'm not going to spoil the rest, but I'll just leave on this note here, though. The guy revives the giant space eel, and you see it like flying over this like entire county of the country, and it looks really crazy. And it goes to show there's a lot of elements where sometimes the art is simple, like there'll be a silhouette panel, and it's simple when it needs to be, and then for the big action to make it look really epic, now that's epic. Is all of a sudden there's a huge there's huge detail, there's huge scale and scope, and it just looks really cool. But it also adds to the funny elements, but also adds like stakes and some you want to see the good guys win and the bad guys
totally be its own cartoon show.
Yeah, exactly. I was just thinking that you could take, it's established that they have all these crates of like mystical wonders that they can open, and they're opening them in sequence. But there's a story element where there's
like 200. Yeah, there's a story element. There's like over 200 crates, and they're ordered to skip to a specific crate because it's the Shroud of Turin.
Yeah, and then that's where all this stuff comes in. But yeah, you could have easily every episode of like a cartoon series, and I'm sure it got sold for the rights were sold and that kind of stuff. And yeah, this would make a good series.
Too religious. I'm sure there's somebody with a small hat who is going like, "There's too much of this Christianity."
Yeah, it's too it's too religious.
It's too religious.
I'm not lying. Hello, it's Bobo. I'm not lying.
Why does he talk like Bobo?
How come they're talking like Bobo?
I'm not saying that. They talk in a stupid, stereotypical voice.
Bobo.
What I am saying
Bobo's
is,
voice reminds me of somebody else.
It's kind of like Men in Black, but in Men in Black, they're so super cynical.
Yeah, that's another thing. That's another element that this has that differentiates it. First of all, Men in Black, the first movie, had almost a scaled down threat. It was just like one bug on one planet. This is like, it's got all these elements of like, especially of Christianity, but then, like the Shroud of Turin is reviving.
Combination also, it's the stuff that they research. It's basically everything that you can throw in. It's supernatural.
Yeah, it's not just aliens.
Amazing technology. Aliens. There's an alien that shows up.
Yeah, well, in Men in Black, it's all aliens. That's all it is. It's just aliens. In this, it's like everything. Everything's supernatural and meta-natural and ultra mundane, I believe, is another term.
The ultra mundane.
Yes, which makes it sound like something that's so incredibly mundane, but actually what it means is supernatural. And it was so my main point about this is the first half is a lot of build up and maybe a little slow, but everything, like almost every single thing,
the build up is necessary.
Yeah, for this huge
I would also
payoff.
say, if you're going to read this, you will have to kind of you should definitely muscle through the beginning because it pays off.
Oh, that makes it sound like it's painful or something. It's not bad, but like the last half of this story is like 10 times better than the first half, but only because of what's set up in the first half.
I think a lot of readers don't appreciate a good build-up.
Yeah, exactly.
And because, I mean, if you have to read a whole bunch of different things, I guess if you were a reviewer, then you probably get tired of reading something that doesn't catch your interest in the first page.
Well, here's the thing is that this comic did still catch my interest in the first page because it's got funny elements and it's got that sort of goofy, quirky, fun.
Yeah, it's not a weak beginning. It's just that it's a slow beginning.
Not even necessarily slow because a lot still happens. It's setting up a lot of stuff. Again, we're talking about comparing this to the last half where all this crazy shit starts happening all at once. And that's where every element in that first half, all of it has constant payoffs, all interconnecting with each other in a lot of fun ways. With a lot of action and fun and goofiness still. And it's still, lighthearted tone. And it's funny because this is also, like, more violent than I was expecting. Slightly more adult, but only to, like...
It's not gore. It's not gore porn. It's not a Eli Roth movie.
But, like, one guy gets decapitated, but, again, it's in, like, a comical way. Like, several of the people in Creature Tech get killed near the beginning. But it's in like a cartoonish element. So it couldn't necessarily be a kid's cartoon, but it would be like a PG, maybe PG-13 element. I mean, because it has Christianity, it would have to be PG-13. You can't make it PG if it's got Christianity.
For Christianity.
The thing is that also there is a lot of Christianity in this, but it's not like stomping a foot down your throat with it. It's like...
It's not in your face with it, yeah.
The main character's dad is a pastor. A lot of the other people in the town are Christians. The main character is not exactly, but he's sort of... I think, by the end of it, he sort of reconciles the whole differentiation. He basically says, I got saved, and he's wearing a cross by the end of the, the action arc and that kind of stuff. And he gets an understanding of all the, because after all, the Shroud of Turin is reviving dead people and dead stuff around him. So it's like he has to have some accepting. But there's also a good point that his dad says is he's kind of disappointed that his son accepts the stuff because he sees the Shroud of Turin reviving people, and he says, he says he's kind of disappointed in that because, we don't believe because we see it happen. We believe because it's true. And again, that's
it's kind of like that line from John Constantine, Hellblazer. And it's like, you don't believe, there's a difference.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that point, I think, it gets across nicely in this comic to that element. And, to whatever extent somebody may disagree or think differently or whatever, that doesn't matter because, again, this comic gets that point across. It's sort of that theme, but also with, just fun action stuff. You can ignore that if you want even, and just enjoy the comic on its own terms as like fun action romp.
It's easy to enjoy the comic on its own merits. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be worried about like, what's the political message? There is no political message. Stop worrying about what kind of secret dog whistles are hidden underneath the surface.
What part of this is going to brainwash my kids into being Christians? That's like
it's going to brainwash my kids into hating the gays or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I wish there's that's my biggest complaint about that. Not enough homophobia.
It's not a perfect comic.
Yeah,
not everything's 100%.
But anyways, even if you're just a dumb, stupid, idiot superhero comic book fan who only likes comics just for looking at the pretty art or spectacle, there's still some of that in here. So even for you idiot comic book fans,
other stuff, this art is a lot better than the stuff you'll find in the big two.
Well, in a fun way. Like, as far as detail, most of the time, no, not really. But that's the thing. Detail is just for the shallow people to be like, oh, it's got a lot of cross-hatching. It's good.
Look how many lines there are.
But when you're actually smart, you start to realize that the best kind of comic book art is usually simple because it needs to be coherent to communicate an event or an idea coming across. And again, this Doug TenNapel has a really great understanding of that and always has. And this comic is a good example of that too.
Yeah, visual coherence is definitely way more important.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you've got like action panels. You need to know what's going on from panel to panel.
Yeah. And like even right here, this is an example because it's a big epic scene, but you can see it's just like giant space eel winding around, like sort of shooting lightning beam bolts and stuff randomly, and it's like blowing up people's houses. You can see it's blowing up a barn like down here and stuff, and it's like
blowing up a barn, blowing up a field. It's blowing a huge hole in that field.
Yeah, but it's also like, oh man, he's really wreaking havoc, and there's like crazy demonic evil stuff going on, and it's like, it's cool and all, but you also are like, I hope the good guys can, how are they going to fight him? What are they going to do? You want to see how, and again, we're not going to spoil that. It's, I think I got this for only like $10 on Comixology. He was having a sale on his website, so, if you follow him on whatever, I think you can go to his mailing list on his website or follow him on Twitter.
Somebody who sells stuff over the internet, somebody who uses the internet
to sell comics. That's another thing I wanted to say. Reading this over Comixology is a much more. It was a nice way to sort of take my mind off sitting around a doctor's office by reading this goofy, fun adventure. How wonderful and delightful that I can just do that digitally on a tablet. That's great. I sure love digital comics.
Instead of having to drag
a giant stack of
books or a huge trade paperback with you everywhere you go.
Well, yeah, I would have had to just bring the book. And again, it would have just been just the book instead of all of the comics I own or all the comics I downloaded to my tablet. That's the advantage of that. Now, as far as when it's a comic I like, though, I do buy them in print. So, I would not be against that.
That's only if I like it a whole lot. And we don't have the money for that. But I can imagine other people have the money.
Although in this case, like, again, the print version of this was on sale. He was talking about how he had signed copies on his website for like $15 or something. And I was like, I can snatch this up. But, but I was like, let me read it first. Again, I got to read it first. That's my priority. Is I have to know if I'm really going to like it, if it's going to be something that I'm going to because I'd never read any Doug TenNapel comic before in its entirety. And again, this is a good first one. This one right here is a good first one. And there's others that people have recommended. But again, as a first one, this one's excellent, especially, again, that payoff at the end. It's a really good, fun payoff.
It's got a really great ending.
Not just the action at the end, but then the conclusion afterwards, too, is really good and solid. And
Very
again,
satisfying.
There's elements of fun to it, too. So yeah, that's...
How long was this? How long is this comic? I was thinking it was 100 pages, but it's actually like...
I think it's about... It felt like about 100 flat.
It felt like 100, but it's actually 200.
Is it 200? That's fucking longer.
I don't
than I
remember
thought,
exactly.
Man. That's surprising. Anyways, all right. Yeah, so, another good comic. And that's what we're really, at this point, that's all we want to do is just talk about good comics. So many people, when they review good comics, they don't have anything to say about it. They're like, oh, it's just good.
Well,
I'd rather roast comics because then they can fucking,
a lot of people who review stuff don't have anything to say.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so yeah, again, I do highly recommend this. Finally, I can recommend a Doug TenNapel comic because we finally read it. It took a long time to finally get around to it too. We've just been busy with all sorts of crazy shit. But again, perfect opportunity too. Everything, it's sort of like everything really came together in the end, didn't it? So, like, share, comment, subscribe. Unsubscribe.
You'd almost say
not subscribed.
It all came together at the end. You almost say that there was some kind of divine plan.
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost like another Ghost Chasers movie.
Necessary sequel on the way. Oh wait, no, not that.
Another Ghost Chasers movie in the can. It's almost like some divine hand was guiding me.
Jump cut to hell. Anyways, but no, yeah, delightful comic. Unshare, unsubscribe. Make sure you're still unsubscribed. And again. All of our reviews, our nice, happy reviews of comics are going to be free forever.
There are people who want to see just negative reviews.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this new Marvel comic.
That's how you can tell someone doesn't care about comics.
Terrible.
That's how you can tell somebody doesn't care about comics is they only want to do negative reviews, and when they're trying to review a comic positively, they have nothing to say. That's how you can tell somebody doesn't actually like the medium.
A stupid lizard person actually did that.
Yes.
He was like, oh, well, my positive reviews of comics don't get as many clicks, so I'm not going to do as many of those anymore.
So that's all you care about is clicks then in that case.
Yeah.
Stupid.
And he gave it away. He gave away the game by doing that.
The game away.
Me, I don't care. I don't care about just clicks. I want to talk about the things that I want to talk about.
That's what we're fucking here for. And that's why, these kinds of videos won't be behind any paywalls. Because, again, they're positive, nice, happy recommendations.
Apparently, though, that makes this echo chamber. So welcome to
we're an echo chamber now.
The free echo chamber.
God, I wish. But anyways, so yeah, speaking of stupid lizards, this one on the screen is pretty cool. And
this eel, which is not a lizard.
Should we or should we not follow the advice of the galactically stupid? I guess that's a question we all need to ask ourselves sometimes. I think we know the answer, of course.
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But I'll give you a hint. No. Anyway, so make sure you're still unsubscribed and should have listened to Shitty Webcomics.